I remember the first time I held a protest sign. I was scared, nervous, unsure if I belonged there, unsure of what we did as a group of community of people, of what we did it even matter. But then we started walking, even marching, singing, chanting, and there was some sort of magic in the air. I felt, even if just for a moment, that what we were doing really mattered. It really changed the world. And those feelings of empowerment, happiness, and community are feelings I wish to share with all of you. Today, I will talk about activism, why it matters, and why youth, like us, need to be at the center of it. First, I think it's necessary to establish a common ground for what activism even is. As mentioned, protests are a part of activism. However, I believe that it is still necessary to talk about protests in a different light, as I believe most of us have a negative connotation towards protests. Protests are not just standing on the street and shouting your opinion. That's standing on the street and shouting your opinion. There is a difference with a protest. A protest is, first of all, a community of people who share the same goal. So, in order for a protest to be a protest, you already need a community of people. Secondly, what you need is a common goal. You need something to reach for, to strive for some change in our society to happen. You can't want nothing to change. You can't protest for no change. And then, what you need is belief that what you are doing, what you will be doing, will matter. And then you have a successful protest. But then, what does that create? A protest doesn't create just opinions floating in the air somewhere, some wishes being made about change being made in society. No, a protest creates discourse in a couple of ways. First, probably the most intuitive way is that, well, when you are protesting in the street, people look at you and they tell their friends, hey, they're protesting something. That's interesting. What are they protesting? You go up to the protesters and ask. You start a conversation, you start a discussion. The protester, you in this scenario, have a goal to pull this person into your goal, to make them believe that your protest matters. Protests also raise discourse in another way. They raise discourse by getting media coverage, whether it's traditional media, such as news, which in a country like Lithuania, which is a pretty small country, almost every protest actually gets covered on the news, which is a success for us, because when you're participating in a protest and the news cover it, you don't have to have people walk by you to tell their friends, hey, it's a protest, it's interesting. You can sit at home comfortably on your couch and watch the news and see that a protest is happening, and tell your family, hey, that's interesting, and discuss the issue the protest is trying to bring up. Also, there's new form media that bring attention. But new form media is a second type of activism. New form media, sharing protests on new form media is also activism. Why? Because at the center of activism, your goal is to create discourse, dialogue, and just general ideas to be thought about. If you think about the 1200s, society weren't discussing issues of queer individuals. But after the Stonewall riots, and after people started actually protesting, people started to discuss the rights of queer people. And those discussions are what leads to people being more accepting. So social media, a new tool, has been great for us, for activists. Because social media, as we all know well, has the capacity to reach a huge amount of people. Just by sharing stories on your Instagram or making Facebook posts, you're already doing some sort of activism by bringing attention to your cause. And that's already enough. That's already a win, because people start talking. Now, I'm not saying posting a selfie with your breakfast is activism. No, you have to do a little bit more work. You have to find the right posts to make. You have to make sure that the message you are presenting is brought through clearly. And then last thing that is activism, that some people might not consider as activism, is just you talking with your family, friends, or teachers. Really, if you are discussing an issue in society with your friends, you are already participating in activism because, again, you are bringing attention to some sort of cause. Now, again, discussing what you had to eat for breakfast isn't activism. A little bit more work is required. You have to actually engage in some sort of meaningful discourse where you discuss an issue. Now, there is an issue that arises here, that it's hard to be an activist while being young, because this form of activism where you are supposed to talk with your parents, with your older brothers or sisters, with your teachers, is hard, because in some hierarchical structure, you are beneath them, and it's hard to be the voice from beneath. It's hard to shout at them and hope that they will listen. And I've been there. I've been there many times where I believe that it's not worth speaking out because the person above me will not listen. However, that's not true. Even if you don't feel like you're listened to, what you are doing is you are planting a seed of interest or a seed of doubt in the mind of the person who is above you. Even if they disagree with you, they still listen to you to a certain degree, and they start thinking for themselves of whether what they believe is right or not. And if you have a goal in mind, you're already doing something right. So speaking out and just having a discussion with your friends or higher-ups is also activism. A very important thing arises here, and it's one of the core things of activism, and that's not just bringing discourse. It's the fact that activism, and when you're trying to create discourse, when you're trying to create dialogue, what is very important is compassion for the uninformed. What do I mean by this? People aren't born hateful. Your grandma wasn't probably born homophobic, but the society that surrounded her and how she grew up made her to be homophobic. So what you really should understand is you feel compassion for them. You can't feel hateful towards a person who didn't really have a choice of what to believe. You have to understand that people don't believe things, especially hateful things, because they chose to do so, because they were born to do so. No, nobody borns to be hateful. People are born to love. But sometimes people do grow up to be hateful. But you have to feel compassion for them. You can't feel hateful to them because it will fuel their anger. You have to try to understand why they hold their certain beliefs, why they are feeling hateful towards, say, a minority group. You must understand why they hold certain beliefs, and again, try to challenge that. Probably your grandma, who is over 80 years old, will not change her mind about the queer rights. But what it will do is it will make her a little bit more accepting. And that's already a great win. That little bit of acceptance is already a win. And that's another crucial part of activism, that change in society doesn't happen overnight. One Greta Thunberg speech is not enough to make all of us care about global warming and stop over-consuming. We need to constantly be active, constantly create this discourse. Because little by little, we're planting the seeds of doubt, the seeds of interest, where people are starting to change, to shift where we want society to shift. So now, when we have a clear understanding of what activism entails, let's talk about the youth and why youth should be at the heart of activism. I have two main reasons. One very simple logistical one that still gets forgotten a lot of times. Just Activism changes our society and changes our world. The youth are the ones that will live in our world the longest. Therefore, the youth should be in the heart of activism. Something that is very simple and logistical, but too many people forget that, and much of youth think that, well, it will happen naturally. Society will progress naturally. No, society will not progress naturally. It will stay stagnant if people don't participate in activism. So, because you are a youth person who is shaping the world, it is important to stay active and change the world. The second thing I really want to talk about, and as mentioned, I've been at the school's debate club for a pretty long time now, 4 years. And for 3 of those 4 years, I was under 18 years old and I couldn't participate in democracy. And I thought that, well, now I can't really change society. And this is also a belief that is interesting to me to really think about, because a lot of youth kind of think that, hey, if I'm unable to vote, then, well, what change can I do? And importantly, that is strengthened by the narratives of people saying democracy is the most important thing in our lives. People say you have to cherish democracy. But if you're under the age of 18 and somebody tells you you have to cherish democracy, that person sounds like a crazy person. I can't vote. How can I cherish democracy? How can I cherish something I don't have access to? But there's a fault in logic there. The fault in logic is that democracy is just voting. And that's not what democracy is. Democracy is changing our society. It's participating in public debates. So going and to like presidential debates and asking questions is participating in democracy, because you're bringing up issues people care about, and again, you create dialogue, you create discourse where people talk about something and try to change our society, trying to change narratives about certain people, try to change narratives about certain minority groups. And that's how already you are doing activism. That's how you are already participating in democracy. There's a very important takeaway that I want people to take away from this speech. For the youth, it is to stay active and to be more active, to not be afraid to go and protest and speak out your mind, speak what you believe in. Change does not happen naturally. You need to participate in it. You can't think that someone else will go to the protest. You have to go to the protest. You have to bring 5 of your friends to the protest. You have to participate in social groups. You have to participate in these public debates, because that's how you change our society. But not for the youth, for maybe the people who are above us in the social hierarchy. Don't dismiss us. Listen to us. Because activism is dialogue. Dialogue requires listening. So for people who are above us, you have to listen to us. You have to try to understand us. Both parties might believe that both parties are uninformed. But then what you need is compassion for the uninformed. You need to understand why people are holding beliefs. You need to try to understand why they believe something and try to change that. And if we want society that is full of love and not hate, we need society that constantly pushes us forward towards love. Thank you.